Magic. Okay, so if you're anything like me, you have spent countless hours either reading or watching these amazing, fantastic stories where the impossible become possible in just a flick of a wrist, using the intricate system of Nen from Hunter x Hunter, devastating Ki Blast from Dragon Ball Z, the cursed energy of Jujutsu Kaisen, or even the spiritual pressure of Bleach. And even things like glyphs from Owl House and runes from the immortal instruments, magic systems are the backbones of some of our favorite stories. They decide the limits, they decide the stakes, and most importantly, most of them are just fucking awesome. But what is it that makes these magic systems so great? Is it the hard rules they set, the mysteries that they create, or something else entirely? So today we'll be talking about some of the most popular magic systems while I get into one that I have written myself, using them as inspirations. Now, I will say this, a unique magic system would be something like using writing as a form of magic. We don't see too much of that often, with the only examples I can think of is Full Metal Alchemist, Owl House, and the Mortal Instruments. And if you're an anime fan, you already know how Full Metal Alchemist works. They write a symbol, a magic circle, they sacrifice something to gain something. Boom, great. We love that kind of stuff. It's fun and it makes for interesting plot points. Like the art of equivalent exchange is incredibly dangerous. The higher up, the more you want something, the more it's gonna cost. But I'm definitely gonna get into two sources of media that's a little bit more niche, and that would be Owl House and Mortal Instruments, starting with the Owl House. So, quick rundown of what it is. It's some little girl named Luz who finds herself isekai'd into a magical world, and she runs into a lady called the Owl Lady, or the Owl Witch. No, it's the Owl Lady. And she's like, whoa, you can do magic? I want to learn magic. And this old lady is like, yeah, I'll teach you magic. This shit gonna be live. Only to find out humans can't learn magic. Now, to give a little bit more details about humans not being able to learn magic, is that the people of the witches of the Boiling Isles, which is the name of the setting, has the has an organ called a bile sac, and this organ is what allows them to use magic. But Luz doesn't have this, but she starts to realize when it comes to the different elements in the world, there are little symbols engraved in them. These symbols she seems to later dub as glyphs. There is a glyph for all four elements: light, ice, plant, and fire. Those are the basic four. Everybody uses magic that revolves around those. She draws a glyph and activates it by smacking it or some shit like that. I really don't remember the details for that. And then boom, the element she's casting, that happens. Now later down the line, she starts to figure out for spells, other than just shooting things, for spells requires combinations. Like you might use plants and light to heal somebody, or fire and ice to create an explosion, or some combination of light to be able to turn invisible, some combination of all of them to might be able to teleport or create illusions or whatever else they might be needing glyphs for. But even within the Boiling Isles, glyphs are not something people normally use. Nobody even knows they exist before Liz discovers them, which allows her to have a form of magic that nobody else has. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not really that practical, but if your wand is gone, you're low on mana, etc., maybe you might have to grab a pencil and start drawing shit, you know? And she knows what she's doing with them. She's very proficient with these runes. Glyphs, not runes. Fuck. Ugh. And that's not something you see often. This shit actually looks very nice. Now, moving on to Mortal Instruments, we have a sub-race of humans that are mixed with angel blood called Nephilim. These Nephilim, they're faster, stronger, smarter. The next evolution of
the next generation of the human race is
living in my basement?
Right, my fault, wrong intro. But moving past all that, nevertheless, they are still human. They still have human weaknesses. So they use the language of their gods, or angels, to write on their bodies so they can modify or enhance things based upon the language of the angels, which are called runes. But they can't just do it with anything. They need something, a tool called the stele, however you pronounce it. I don't know. I didn't watch the show or the movies, but I did read it, and that's why I'm allowed to talk on it. But using these stillies, it allows them to pretty much do superhuman things. Like they have a rune that enhances their agility and swiftness, that can make them invisible, fearless, give them super strength. They can burn things, open doors, etc, etc, etc. Now, unlike glyphs, writing these runes are pretty painful, bro. They feel physical pain and it scars whenever they put it on their bodies. But despite all of that, despite the uniqueness and using symbols as a way of using magic, it's time for us to get into the louder, more grand, and more fun form of magic.
Take the amplified and the reversal, and to create imaginary mass. Imaginary technique. Hollow. Purple.
We got hands, we got energy, spirit, soul, the whole 9 yards. Battle shonen like Dragon Ball, Naruto, One Piece, Bleach, Jujutsu Kaisen, Hunter x Hunter all played this role in a combination of physical, mental, and spiritual combat. Now, I'm not here to talk about the combat or anything like that. Right now, what we are really here for is the magic system specifically. Things like ki, chakra, curse energy, nen. Each of these things built and defined the rules of their worlds and their stories. Like my favorite magic system coming from Naruto and Hunter x Hunter. Chakra. In Naruto, everybody has it, everybody produces it. It is the energy of all life. But it's these chakra natures and jutsus that I really want to get into. Because at the core value of Naruto is not every jutsu is an end all be all. There are jutsus that can be used to summon floods, jutsus that can be used to drop nukes, but more specifically jutsus that can transfer information, possess people, immobilize things, build things. It's not always about the destructive nature of the jutsu. It's sometimes healing and nurturing things is also important. Like Susanoo is one of the most powerful jutsus in all of Naruto. Best believe I'm willing to bet money shadow paralysis and shadow possession, shadow stitching can put that thing down. And it's really less about being able to put down the Susanoo but mess with the user of the Susanoo. The point is every jutsu has a counter, either an elemental counter or functional counter. So it really comes down to what your chakra natures are, how familiar you are with jutsus, and how many chakra natures have you mastered to use at once, how fast you can throw your jutsus out, etc, etc. So now we're gonna get into the biggest influence of today's time, Jujutsu Kaisen.
Urahime? You crying?
Now I'm gonna say this, I'm not the biggest fan of JJK. Oh, boo yourself. But I can admit the concept of curse energy is actually very great. Between negative emotions and feelings creating this kind of energy that manifests into nightmares, fears, and truly horrific spirits. Mwah, chef kiss. And for this subgroup of humans, training to control this dark cursed energy, to manipulate it into their favor so they can fight back against these spirits. And in rare cases, this curse energy can manifest as these supernatural abilities for the humans to use. And these things tend to be very specific, very niche, like the ability to command 10 shadow monsters. But first you have to conduct a ritual to tame each one, and you're normally by yourself in this. Or how about somebody that can manipulate the frame rate of how he moves, forcing those to have to pick what frames to hit, otherwise they get frozen in time. That's amazing! And when it comes to these curse techniques, they are not really that overpowered comparing them to each other. Like sure, there are overpowered characters like Gojo, Sukuna, and Yuta, but when you take the basics of these abilities, you start to realize that they only work because the users are that great. Like using Gojo for example, Reversal Red wasn't anything that was in the instruction manual of how to use Limitless. That was something he came up with after learning the reverse curse technique, finding a way to reverse the flow of his pull, and then figuring out a way to combine push and pull. Or how about things like binding vows, which you can place restrictions on yourself or other people to create contracts that can enhance yourself other people or force deals amongst others, but it has to be a mutual agreement. And then there's the ultimate ability, domain expansion, a physical manifestation of your soul, which gives you a sure hit with your abilities. And sometimes these domain expansions have a unique ability tied to them, just based on how your soul is. Now, enough with all this glazing, and now I can finally get into what I have put together myself. Alright, so we've broken down some of the rule systems in some of these combat animes and even glyph-based magic in other worlds. Now it's time for me to pull back the curtains and start talking about the principles of my own system for the world of Blood and Runes, or for my podcast show, Tainted Legacies. This magic system is called Vitalis. Now, when it comes to the nooks and crannies of the systems, there are no spells or powers that you can learn. Fundamentally, it's all a spiritual thing. All life on this world uses Vitalis. And the biggest thing is only a select few people can actually manipulate Vitalis. So for regular humans and most plants and animals, it flows through them, influences their emotions, and even subtly influences their environments, but they cannot consciously or subconsciously use them or you do incredible feats or anything like that. So who are the people that can actively use Vitalis? Well, taking inspiration from the mortal instruments, it's the Nephilim. Now, hearing them be called Nephilim, you'd probably think they're descendants of angels or impure demons or whatever, and you'd be mostly correct. There are these spiritual beings called the Lumina, which ruled over humanity long before the current Fuck! My fault, guys. I am fumbling on my own words. I'm not even reading anything. This is all coming off the dome. But back on topic, the Lumina did rule over humanity long before modern day civilization, so there are no written records of them, despite what most believe. Now, without getting into anything crazy, at some point, they did just suddenly disappear, and none of the Nephilim know why. But it's because of these Lumina biology that they have, the Nephilims. It allows them to physically be stronger and faster than your average human. It gives them access to something called vital expressions, which for the most part just makes them physical manifestations of their souls. So think a lesser version of a domain expansion. The limitations and rules will vary depending on how powerful the vital expression is, but for most people, there's normally a give and take kind of thing. So let's say you're somebody that can manipulate how people feel and think, that would most likely require you to be within touching distance of them and or to have a stronger will than them. And this is mostly because that the Nephilim are still human at the end of the day. They don't have any of the godly abilities that the Lumina did. And the most important part of this is because of their human limitations, they have to use the language of the Lumina as runes that they end up engraving onto their bodies for specific enhancements and physical traits. Runes are not used as magic in this sense. They are used as buffs and amps. So there might be a rune of invisibility, while there's also a rune of enhanced sight, enhanced hearing, holding breath, etc, etc. The crazy thing is, the Nephilim aren't even the only species that use Vitalis on Earth. There are a few others, but I'm gonna go into more details about that in another video. But I'd love to see what you guys think about this in the comment section below. Come up with theories or even just put information down. What you think, how I can go about it, you know? That was not English, my fault, y'all. And I'll be leaving a PDF in the description below just with the basics information of this. As time goes on, there's going to be more PDFs, so please stay tuned for that. This is just the intro. This is just the basics of things. We're going to deep dive things in other videos. So with all of that aside, peace out, and I'll see you guys in the next one.